Well, I'm doing this for nostalgia reasons. I done my DNA. I've got a bunch of old manuscripts, and let me move this book out of the way. This is ancient manuscripts. Let me just take one out so you know what I'm talking about. And I ain't gonna get all this scattered because I got it all scattered out here. Trust me. But anyway, I researched my ancestry. They used to spell this. They spelled it 1,000 different ways, but far back as I can remember, they moved the L out of it. And George Slauson, let's see, George C. Slauson ancestry. And I've got this going back. You wouldn't believe. I spent years on this thing, and it's got who married who about back to the 11th century. So I can go trace my ancestry back, who married who, to the 11th century. But I go a lot further than that on the name, and it's on. Let's turn it over this way. I can't. It's just who married who married who married who. I wore out my printer doing all this stuff, so I had to buy a new printer. But it goes back. I mean, I've got all the ancestry back to, like I said, to the 11th century. Who married who? So I got a little bit of information here. Okay, there's some more of it. I need to do a lot more outs and in work to it. I got that in that folder. Let's put this back where I get it scattered out. I believe everybody should find out where they came from. Far back as I can go is 3,600 years before Christ. And I can trace the name and back that for, oh, what a mess. But I'm trying to put this in this bag. But anyway, I could trace it back to 3,600 years before Christ. And so I'd start, that was tracing the name and my ancestors who married who, and I've got it back to the 11th century. I've got the name back to, let's say, here's some pictures of ancient pictures, the pictures of people, some of my ancestry. Many that I found in books and magazines, not books, but not books and not magazines, but anything I could find a clipping in a newspaper or whatever when they started keeping records. But the name goes back to 3,600 years before Christ. It means mountain castle. Well, I searched it back further than that. That was the English version, but it was meant mountain stronghold. And that's where the name, when the name, they moved the L out of it. Years and years ago, they didn't pronounce the L in the Gaelic, let's see, Druid, Celtic, and ancient Picts. That's where they came from, the ancient Picts. And like I said, every time that name popped up, I snatched it. And I've got record after record after record. And like I said, and I went back anything that popped up in the magazine, I'm not magazine, in historical records and what do they call that? Microfilm. That's what I'm trying to get at. A lot of it wasn't on microfilm. A lot of it was in churches, in baptism books. Like I said, it's just an endless process of photocopying every little piece of scrap of information, no matter where it was at, their names, death certificates, on and on and on. I even went to Ancestry.com and got that, my DNA done. Here's some stuff on the President of the United States. I mean, I'll have to, with the name and everything else, I mean, it is in there. You just have to research it back, public records. If you have a lot of time, do your own. And if you need help, there's a lot of organizations out there that can help you. Every time somebody went to court over something, land deeds and property deals, it's got a lot of it in there. I'm just trying to show you. Here's the Ancestry.com. I did that 1637. It's just record after record, and I just wanted to put this on there. But you can do that yourself. You can do Ancestry.com. This is record who married who all the way back. Like I said, as far back as I can go with who married who was 11th century. And that's 1100 years after the birth of Christ. But I can take the name back to 3600 BC, which is 3,600 years before Christ was born. And that's about as far as I can go. I'm trying to research back. I had a little trouble through the Black Plague era in Europe. And I also had a lot of trouble with when they didn't keep records. They basically kept drawings and this, that, and the other. Here's some of the paper, and I don't want to take it out, but it's got the 1100s in it. I think my furthest back record was, let's see, 832. Now, 832, I've got some spotty who married who. But it really gets who married who permanently. I don't know if we can see this. And I don't want to take it out and waste it and scare it all away. But I've got it back down to right now. But it was 832. I still got records who married who. That's 800 years after the birth of Christ. But my record goes back to 3,600 years before Christ. And if you guys can do your own genealogy, the Quakers, the Amish, the Puritans, there's a lot of archives in the, let's see, from the Mennonites and the Mormons. A lot of church records are scattered out through history, and they was the one that kept most of the records. I have a lot of records and stuff from the 1600s. And in the 1200s is where I had a little trouble. But this is from the President of the United States to my ancestry. I don't know what year this was. 1890? Yeah. You find letters, you find photocopies, you find all kinds of information. And I'm going to stop it right there, put all this mess back up. But I got to thinking about it. Go get your DNA done. There's a lot of places out there. I used Ancestry.com. It wasn't too expensive, $150, $200, something like that now. But I'll let you go. Talk to you later.